All right, guys. So let's talk about, the first 3 weeks in the payments processing business because this is when like 90% of you won't even make it. And why is that? Because 90% of you won't have the adequate script. You won't have that script mastered. And even if you do have that script mastered, what happens is you go through the first five doors in the day and then you get discouraged and you don't want to go to the sixth, seventh, and eighth door. Or you end up sitting in your car for 10 minutes trying to convince yourself to go in and you really can't get into any sort of rhythm. So when you can't get into any rhythm, you end up like completely out of it, right? So you don't want to do that. So action is completely key in your first few, weeks of payment processing until you understand what your capabilities are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and how you're going to overcome those things. So, first things first, if you're in a big city area, you should be literally hitting like 80 doors a day. So, like, there's places in Boston, Massachusetts. So, I bounce between Boston and Miami. There's places in Boston, Massachusetts where I can hit like 20 doors in an hour just having 2 minute conversations. Sometimes it's a 5 minute conversation, sometimes it's 30 seconds and you're in and out, and you're in and out incredibly fast because you can't get the decision maker or they're not there or something along those lines. So make sure that you set an expectation for yourself to hit like literally 100 doors a day. If you're brand new, you have to do reps. So if you take a guy who has a closing rate of 20%, a closing the appointment, that is, right? Not closing actual deals, because that would be absolutely ludicrous. And you have 50% of that rate. So say out of 100, you get 10. Out of 100, he gets 20. Well, if you hit 100 doors and he hits 50 doors a day, guess what? You book the same amount of appointments. So make sure that you're doubling whoever the best guy is at your company, and make sure that you're just getting that prospecting in. It's all about the reps at the beginning, right? And then the number two thing is have that sales script absolutely mastered. Have it down to a T. You should know every single line and be able to pick up and have a language pattern for every single thing that the prospect says. Objection. Oh, I understand, Mr. Prospect. Do you like the idea? Do you like the concept? Okay, they say this. Okay, I have to say that. You have to know right off the bat exactly what you're going to say based on what your prospect says, and you have to know what tonality to put on that. That is even more important because the unconscious communication is 95% more powerful than the conscious communication. So make sure that you have those unconscious communication tips, like your body language, your hand gestures, everything that you're doing has to be mapped out really well. If it's not mapped out really well, you're absolutely never going to make it in this business, right? And then multiply that by your reps. So it's your efficiency multiplied by your reps equals your closed deals, your closed appointments, your book deals. So if you're out in a rural area, out in the country, you might only be able to get 20 doors a day. But, those people typically deal with a lot less people. So they're going to be a little bit more kind. Maybe they're going to be a little bit more responsive, especially if you're from that area, right? Maybe they've known you. Maybe you've been in and out of their store because you live in a smaller area and only so many people are in that area. So make sure you're using those little things to your advantage. Because when you walk in and you actually know Joe, the owner, and you say, "Hey, is Joe there? Oh, Joe, how you doing? So good to see you." And you've known him, well, you're going to get at least a conversation out of him because he knows you're going to be back later. So in small towns, oftentimes when you speak in a familiar tone, people they're trying to place you even harder than in a city because they're like, I feel like I know him from somewhere, right? Might have a slightly familiar face or something like that. Unfortunately, I don't get that. I'm like 6'1", 230 pounds, and I'm bald. Like, unfortunately, I don't get mistaken for anybody other than Goldberg or Jason Statham, right? So I don't have that luxury, but a lot of you have that luxury. Thank your lucky stars, my friends, because as a salesperson, you'll do incredibly well. I believe in you. Make sure that you stay consistent prospecting, or the first 3 weeks can really kick your butt. And if you need somebody to bring with you, then do it. Find a friend who just has a day off of work and say, "Hey, man, come right along with me. I need a little bit of extra motivation. Come right along with me for 3 hours. Just have them sit in the car and pump you up a little bit. Put on some Metallica, get going. Clench those fists. Yes, baby, yes, let's go. Get yourself all pumped up for that sale." So Make sure you're, setting yourself up for success and putting yourself in a position for success. If you do those things, I guarantee you're going to get through what I call the valley of despair. You're going to get into this thing and you're going to be thinking, oh, I know, all these business owners, I'm going to make $1 million. Guess what? Don't go to those people first because you're going to blow the sale. You haven't mastered the script. You don't know the objections yet. When they ask you what time, the batch report's going to go, and you don't know, even what a batch report is at that point, and they say, is it daily batching, monthly, weekly batching? Am I going to get paid, at 9 a.m., 10 a.m.? What's the batch closeout time? And you don't know any of those answers, it's not going to be a good thing, especially when it's that $40 million deal that you thought was going to change your life. And now you've positioned yourself as an undereducated person, right? So unless you have like a manager with you in a situation like that, somebody who's a seasoned closer, somebody who you actually have references for as well. So don't just take a manager's word for it and have them say, oh yeah, well, I'm a seasoned closer. Okay, how many reps have you managed? How many deals do you close per month? And let me see some track record here, because you don't want to go in and blow those big deals right when you get into this with your best contacts. Because that could also affect you 5 years down the line when you want to use those contacts for something else. They might say, forget about this clown. He came in, he acted like he knew everything. He knew nothing about this stuff. This guy's an idiot. He's a blithering idiot. It could completely change someone's opinion of you. So make sure that you go to small businesses. When I first went out, I went to auto body shops specifically, and I just spoke to auto body shops. I didn't know anything about the auto body business, but I just went in, initially, and I said, hey, I'm doing a survey. What are some problems that you face in your payment system? What solutions are you looking for in your payment system? What problems would you like to be solved in your payment system? And I started to get some answers, right? Everybody wants more referrals. Everybody wants a little bit more marketing associated, So how can I create now an offer around that specific for auto body shops so I can close that gap, right? So I want to close that gap and find out exactly how I can get them closer to that sale, get them intrigued, build that mystery and intrigue, lean in, get that power whisper going. John, I came up with this program. We have, blah, blah, blah integrated into the POS. It's, marketing, it's sales, it's referral offers, whatever it is. I'm sure that it can be built into a POS, especially something like Clover that's so capable and has so many different things associated with it, like text message marketing, right? So referral offer, you bring in, if you give a referral, your friend and you each get 10% off your next oil change, right? Or 20% off your next oil change. Those little offers can bring in 5% more business. And then on top of that, you're giving them a 3% cash discount. So now you've taken 3% out of their business. You've added 5% to their business. Now their profit margin is up 4.25% as a random number, but at least 3% as a result of you. So just realize that you can bring a lot more value. You are a business consultant as well as a payments expert. So, because these POS technologies do so many different things now. Just make sure you're consistent in that prospecting. Make sure that you have all these tools in your tool belt. Make sure you have the right arrows in the quiver. You'll be good to go. Talk soon, guys. See you on the next module.